In this lesson, we'll add the JavaScript code to insert a new list item. Sounds simple, right? Well, our list item is going to be dynamic, editable, draggable, and deletable, if that's even a word. So it's got a lot going on. Consequently, there's a fair amount of JavaScript involved. Don't worry though, I'll guide you every step of the way. I've got the index.html file from the Chapter 3 0302 folder open in my code editor now. Let's scroll all the way to the bottom so we can put in our JS after the page loads. Now, I've already got my call to jQuery in place right down there on line 150, just above the closing of the body tag. But I need one other helper. I'm going to add a link to a jQuery plugin called HTML5 Sortable by Iranian developer Ali Faradi. HTML5 Sortable is a lighter version of the jQuery UI sortable routine with some additional functionality. It makes using the HTML5 drag and drop API a lot easier. I've already downloaded mine, and now let's head back to the code so I can link to it. So I'll put my cursor right after the call to jQuery, and I'll enter in a script tag, set the type to text JavaScript, and the source, or src, will go to my _scripts folder, and the name of the file we're looking for is jQuery.sortable.js. I'll close off my script tag, and that's all I need there. As I said, the JavaScript for this section is a bit involved, so I've created a code snippet to bring it in without having to type in every line. Let's take a look at it. You'll find it in the _assets folder, and it's called snippet.js. We start by ensuring that the code doesn't launch until the document is ready, using our document_ready function. Next, we set up a series of variables. The first one is used to hold the code for the new list item. The second one is a flag to determine whether we've already begun a list or not. The third one, the list, uses standard JavaScript syntax to get the UL list object. Now we go to our main routine, starting on line 6. This will trigger if the Add to List button, which has the ID of Add to Do, is clicked. We want to not actually submit the form, so in the next line, we prevent the default behavior. Next, we test to see if this is the first time a new list item has been added by checking our flag. If so, we get the value from the input field and then build up our list item code. You can see that code on line 10. Let's go through this bit by bit. First, there's the opening li tag, followed by a span with a class of handle. This is the 2 colons that form our gripper handle for moving the list item. After the closing span tag is an input field where the list item goes. You may be wondering why we're using an input rather than the HTML5 content editable attribute. Unfortunately, there's a pretty major conflict between the draggable API and content editable in the current crop of WebKit and Blink browsers. That's iOS and Google Chrome. Whether it's as designed or a design flaw doesn't really matter right now. What does matter is that you can't currently use content editable on dynamically inserted draggable items. So I've switched things up a bit and gone back to the old reliable input field, which drags just fine, thank you very much. Now back to our list item. The last element after the input tag is a link for removing that list item, basically a big red X. Once that's all set, we'll change our new list flag to false. That happens on line 11. Now, if this isn't the first list item, we get the to-do entry as before on line 13, and then next we clone the last item in the list and then substitute its value attribute with the one that the user entered. Pretty cool, right? Next up is a bit of code to determine whether to show the clear all link or not. It's hidden when the list is empty or when there's just one list item, because that can always be removed by clicking the red X. So we get the number of list items, and if there's more than one, we show the paragraph that holds the clear all link. Let's scroll down a bit. Now on line 23, we're ready to add our new item. Next, we just have a little housekeeping to keep things neat and tidy. First, we'll clear out the value that the user put in to the Add New Item list, and then we reset its focus so that the user can make another item entry very easily. Finally, we bring our HTML5 sortable library into play. To make sure we're starting from a clean slate, we actually get rid of it first, if it does exist. And then we set it up and target the span with a class of handle to act as our, handle. So that's the full code breakdown. Let's select the entire block and then copy it and go back to our index.html file. After the call to jQuery sortable.js, I'll enter in a new script tag, give it a type also of text JavaScript. and then within that tag, paste in our snippet. With our major building block in place, we can now save our file, and we're ready for the next step, handling the edits.